old, chat. I'm getting old. Wait a minute. Is this John Oliver in high school? Why was... It's Mata, thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subs in this community. Holy, thank you.
Moving on.
I used to work in senior housing. I used to work in risk management in senior housing. And so CMS is the government oversight committee organization entity that has their 5-star review system that is multifaceted, that surveys the quality of a nursing home. You have the staffing portion, and you have the emergency like maintenance, equipment, whether or not there's faulty equipment, what is the safety protocol, what's the emergency protocol look like. All of these things you have to take into consideration from a risk management perspective. You're trying to mitigate as much risk as possible, right? That's the whole ordeal. You would not believe how nursing homes would eat the cost of a fine whenever they fail to comply with the CMS standards that require an RN, which is a registered nurse, to CNA ratio, right? You have to have a certain number of RNs and LPNs, which is a licensed practitioner nurse, an RN, which is a registered nurse, and then your CNA. So whenever you're talking about low skill nurses, you're talking about CNAs, or certified nursing assistants. CNAs are the ones who do all of the heavy lifting in an assisted living facility or a independent living or nursing home, right? CNAs are also the ones who get the flack, right? They are the ones literally changing diapers, showering, using lifts to reposition a patient. They are the ones who usually receive and give the vast majority of the abuse that tends to occur in a long-term living facility or an acute care facility. If we're talking about a nursing home, how many stars did the New York nursing homes get? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. CNAs are being phased out. LPNs do most of that now. Amy, I have a question. There are malpractice lawsuits in so many fields, from medical doctors, nursing facilities, to industrial manufacturers and small businesses. Why are the police never supposed to err on occasion? Some police abuse their authority or error in duty, and all police are castigated. I cannot understand how many people are asking me questions about cops. You know what the difference is between a negligent cop and a negligent doctor? Doctors get fucking sued, and they have tail insurance to make sure that they have they are covering for the possibility of their own fuck-ups. Whenever cops fuck up, their investigation is done internally, and then their malpractice is buried, and then they get back to the job. And doctors are held to a much higher standard. There's much more accountability when it comes to medical negligence and malpractice, not to the same degree as the police. So I don't understand what argument you're even trying to make. In some countries, Amy, doctors get sued. Yeah, I mean, doctors get sued here too. But usually it's the company who takes on the risk. And in some cases, like Pennsylvania, for example, in order to be a licensed doctor, you have to purchase your own tail insurance. Because if you fuck up too badly, and also there's certain pots of money that are put together with programs. And what's the name of the program in Pennsylvania? That you also have to pay into because of the liability factor for private practitioners who might not be associated with like a company or a private hospital, that then puts them at even more risk for liability. And yeah, that's a pretty common occurrence, I believe, in some states. If you are not associated with a private company or a private hospital, then you have to make sure that you are purchasing your own tail insurance, so that if you do fuck up and you are sued, you are able to be able to pay off that compensatory damage that you might have caused, that you might cause your patients or the families of your patients to incur. And that is on you as a doctor in some instances. Not all the time, but in some instances that is the case here in the United States. Yeah, no, trust me, chat. I've seen the worst of the worst. I've seen what happens in a nursing home. I have gone through the process of the claim. I've gone through the claims management process, the indemnification process. I know how much a nursing home can be sued for damages, and it can be really bad. Are we still talking about the cops? I just want cops to not have qualified immunity, be required to be licensed with requirements of annual training, and maintain the licensed third-party independent non-affiliated board that does investigations into police misconduct, and cops pay damages out of their retirement funds when they fuck up and murder someone. Ideally, they would have the ability to murder, but this is USA, so baby steps. No, I mean, I'm all in favor of finding some way to ensure that if you are killing people on site, I mean, abolishing the police is something that I can get behind, don't get me wrong. But also, how are you going to ensure that if you have some sort of accident and punitive damages are the result of malfeasance, then are you covering the costs that would be incurred whether or not you are killing somebody on site, any damages that would be incurred, medical costs, funeral costs? Like, don't make the victims of police brutality or the families of the victims of police brutality have to pay for the damage that's done by a police officer. That 100% is something that I can get behind. Amy, really, doctors do lots for the government. They are overprotected. Also, when they destroy people's lives, I've really heard bad stories that no one once went to jail for. Lots of politicians have doctors on their speed dial, so I get much more respect for doctors than cops. I mean, fuck doctors. Fuck bad doctors. Fuck crooked doctors. They shouldn't be practicing. Like, don't get me wrong. If you're a fucking bad doctor, you shouldn't be practicing, full stop. Obviously, if you're a bad cop, you shouldn't be a cop either, full stop. That's the way I see it. Wait a minute, we're talking about professions, not individuals. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about an individual. Never mind.
Period before the pandemic found that 82%
I'm saying like in theory, like by principle, I think that if you are a doctor and you fail to deliver on what is expected, policing as a profession is bullshit. Doctors as a profession are necessary and good. Yeah, okay, I can see the argument that you're making too. Yes. But also, like, if you take that Hippocratic oath or whatever, do no harm to no one. And if you're a doctor and you can't even meet that standard, then you should not be a doctor. But by and large, the profession is still good. Doctors shouldn't be a profession, though. It should be a public service. Yeah, you're right. How many people would still want to be doctors if there weren't so much money involved and it was free to obtain your medical degree? If it was free to become a doctor, but being a doctor didn't pay as much, how many people would really be doctors? Chat, have you ever heard someone got an operation on the wrong leg or something like that? People would still be doctors. Some people would still be doctors. Yeah. So. I'm pretty sure that happens in the movie Trainwreck or whatever. What's it called? Not Trainwreck, the what's the Amy Trainspotting, that's not it either. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to be a doctor. Train of thought derailed. Ugh, thank you. You have to be an empathetic person.
Homes.
What's crazy too? Whenever you're going through this process, you have ICD-10 coding that you have to code every single treatment that you are giving, but also medical coding is also incredibly fraudulent, right? But there's also a government oversight program. It's called MMSEA, and this applies to more so medical malfeasance that does require some sort of compensatory process where, you know, you are, as an entity owning, you know, a chain of nursing homes, you have to pay out the cost of, you know, whatever damage you have done through the claims process. It's an indemnification of the wrongdoings or the medical malfeasance or the medical negligence, whatever you had done wrong that warrants some sort of payouts, right? If you are the defendants, and you are paying out through the indemnification process, you have to file a claim through MMSEA to determine what you are paying as a defendant to for the claimant who has made the claim, who then is found. You don't really go in front of a trial. It's not like a trial process. It's done all through a civil court process. But you through mediation or any kind of dispute resolution process that's outside of the courtroom, determine the amount of the wrongdoing that you have done. Then you report that to MMSEA, the entity that oversees indemnification in many respects, to ensure that the plaintiff or the claimant who is making the claims the wrongdoing isn't double dipping if they have received compensation for damages on top of some sort of claim that they can make through Medicare, or if Medicare is covering the cost of some sort of treatment, then you have to report that to ensure that the person who is in the nursing home, right, the claimant, doesn't necessarily have to be the resident, but usually they can be one and the same. I'm sorry I'm getting into the weeds here, but the point is that you would be surprised to know that in many respects, regulatory oversight is applied to claimants and is not so much applied to the entities or the defendants who are doing the wrongdoing, the medical negligence, the abuse. I mean, yes, they are beholden to a lot of regulations as well, but in many respects, auditors, regulators, they look the other way. And the focus is not just on the entity providing the healthcare or the healthcare provider itself. Until proven innocent, I guess. Well, the point of like MMSEA is to make sure that the resident in the healthcare facility is not committing Medicare fraud. Rick Scott knows a thing or two about Medicare fraud? So healthcare will get worse and worse in the US until the system is restructured. Well, at this point we're seeing more people become eligible, right? With the boomers, the baby boomers. With the baby boomers, a lot of people are eligible for Social Security and Medicare, and depending on their familial ties to, you know, intergenerational housing, I guess that will depend. That'll depend on, you know, whether or not old people end up in nursing homes or not. At the end of this day, Cuba has more doctors per person. So yeah, just to go back over that, it's very cumbersome. But despite having all of these regulations and standards in long-term living assistance, long-term living facilities, right, or acute care facilities, you see a lot of turning the other cheek and allowing for these facilities to continue to run in a substandard capacity, right? And a lot of the focus when it comes to regulatory oversight is on not the provider, not the healthcare provider, but the recipient of Medicare, or the resident, or the family, right? To make sure that they're not trying any funny business or trying to commit Medicare fraud. And that's simply the point that I was trying to make. My bad.
The way, I'm pretty
10 code for an injury sustained by an alligator bite. I'm not making this up. ICD code alligator. Here we go. Motherfuckers thought of everything. Bitten by crocodile. Initial encounter, yeah. So you have like initial account. It's not funny, it's not funny, it's not funny. Happy Gilmore has entered the chat room. I tore that bastard's eye out. Would you? It's almost as if there was something like a homes guarantee, and you could have specialized facilities that were focused on long-term assisted living facilities, right? Or independent living facilities, or retirement homes through a homes guarantee, you wouldn't run into this problem. Who knew that at the end of this would be a homes for all argument? Because the root issue here in this instance is that this is a privatized industry with limited regulatory oversight that these owners of these facilities are beholden to, right? And workarounds and slap on the wrist fines and penalties that they pay whenever they do not comply with whatever little regulatory oversight is currently in place. This smacks of this movie? We just don't give a shit? Wow, if only the government could help.
wrong.
Hey, at least there's an ICD-10 code for if you are entered alive. If you're eaten alive, you can enter the code that allows for the proper insurance billing to apply. It's capitalism, baby. Like literally every single thing that you can think of, there was an ICD-10 code for it. Everything, everything. I think we've talked about this a little bit. The most absurd ICD. Thank you. This is from 2015. Sucked into jet engine, subsequent encounter. Sucked into a jet engine, survived, and sucked in again. First of all, that really sucks. Second of all, this patient is obviously Wolverine and should be detained for imaging and posterity. Accidental striking against or bumped into by another person. Sequela. Is it sequela? 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 Would that be third time's the charm? Sequela here implies the kind of human bumper cars that only happen at a music festival, the subway, or possibility in active combat zone, potentially fatal, or agoraphobics recommend handling with care. Pedestrian or foot injured in collision with roller skater. Subsequent encounters, so happened twice. Activities involved arts and handcrafts. Dependence on enabling machines and devices not elsewhere classified. Swimming pool or prison as the place of occurrence of the external cause. Other superficial bite or other specified part of neck, initial encounter. Bitten by pig, initial encounter. Struck by duck, subsequent encounter. Problems in relationships with in-laws. Walked into a lamppost, subsequent encounter. Burned due to water skis on fire, subsequent encounter. Other contact with cow, subsequent encounter. Spacecraft collision injuring occupants. Struck by macaw, initial encounter. Bizarre personal appearance. Lady Gaga, is that you? We love your meat suit. Jesus Christ. Those ducks though, honestly.